Vasistha continued, O Ram, the only way to cross this formidable ocean of world appearance is the successful mastery of the senses. No other effort is of any use. When one is equipped with the wisdom gained by study of the scriptures and the company of sages, and has his senses under his control, he realizes the utter non-existence of all objects of perception. When this idea of controlling the senses is very common in a lot of spiritual traditions actually, and it sometimes is regarded as, not looking at naughty things or not being self-indulgent, and I think we've got to sort of look at this in the light of what it says here though about realizing the utter non-existence of all objects of perception. There's something more profound here than just behaving yourself. I've spoken before about perception and how it doesn't actually really make sense when you look into it, but what's actually going on when you perceive something. And our attention is diverted by ideas about objects existing out there. And it's really the attention which needs to be mastered here, where you're allowing the attention to be directed to. This is the mastery that we're talking about. This is the mastery of the senses. It's the mastery of the attention and understanding why it's directed out to various fantasies in the head or objects or notions about the world out there. Ram, mind alone is all this, and when that is healed, this jugglery of world appearance is also healed. This mind alone, by its thinking faculty, conjures up what is known as the body. No body is seen where the mind does not function. Again, we've got to be careful with the language here. When it says conjures up what is known as the body, and it's the mind we're talking about. What does the mind do? The mind creates notions. And the body is simply that. Just like the idea of a world out there is a notion, the idea of a body is a notion. And this so-called ocean of samsara that we have to cross is an ocean of notions. And that's what we have to navigate. Hence, the treatment of the psychological illness known as perception of objects is the best of all treatment in this world. The mind creates delusion. The mind produces ideas of birth and death, and as a direct result of its own thoughts, it is bound, and it is liberated. It can be liberated if it realizes its nature. So, the psychological illness known as perception of objects. I doubt whether the perception of objects has ever been described as a psychological illness, but it's a huge con that we've been led to believe in our education. The notion that there's an object out there, there's a me here to perceive it, and somehow the two, I somehow perceive an object out there. It's something which can be, even if you don't have a feeling about where the Yoga Vasistha is coming from, you can still look into this, look into in tremendous detail about theories of perception and how it works, and it just doesn't hang together. Somehow an object out there becomes a subjective experience in here. Right. Ram asked, "O holy sage, kindly tell me, how does this enormous universe exist in the mind?" Again, just assuming perception and so on, how can it perceive everything? The scientist can create cameras and software which can identify objects, even faces, facial recognition software. But that's just some aspects of the visual field. What about smell? What about sound? But the mind does all this naturally. The mind accommodates the infinite variety of experiencing that is going on every moment. Vasistha replied, "O Ram, it is like the universe is created by the Brahmana boys." These were the boys that became creator gods. "Again, it is like the hallucinations suffered by the king Lavana. There is another illustration. It is the story of the Sage Sutra, which I'll presently narrate to you." So here we've got now the story of the Sage Sukra. A long time ago, the sage Bhrgu was performing intense penance on the peak of a mountain. His son Sukra was a young man at that time. While the father sat motionless in meditation, the young son attended to the father's needs. One day, this young man beheld in the sky a beautiful flying nymph. His mind was disturbed with desire for her. So was her own mind disturbed when she saw the radiant young Sukra. Intensely overcome by desire for the nymph, Sukra closed his eyes and mentally pursued her. He reached heaven. There he saw the radiant celestial beings, gods and their consorts, the celestial elephant and horses. He saw the creator Brahma himself, as also the other deities who govern this universe. He saw the siddhas, perfected beings. He listened to celestial music. He visited the celestial gardens in heaven. Finally he saw the king of heaven, Indra himself, seated in all his majesty, waited upon by incomparably beautiful nymphs. He saluted Indra. Indra too got up from his throne and greeted the young sage Sukra, and begged him to stay in heaven for a long time. Sukra also consented to do so.